Hi, Bunny fans. Today I am talking to Angelo Webb, who is an animal communicator in the USA. And I'm really interested to hear all the things she has to tell us about how to communicate with your pet and her background on how she got into this kind of work. I know a lot of my listeners are very interested in this kind of aspect of pet care. So without further ado, Anne, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
So welcome. It's great to meet you.
Likewise.
So tell us a little bit about your background, Anne, and how you got into this kind of work.
So I was at the time when I started doing animal communication professionally, although I have memory of doing it as a child, and I think a lot of people do, or it's suppressed or it's repressed or whatever you want to call it. I was actually a social worker. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. And I was kind of starting or had already started to kind of get into other things. Like right after 9/11, it was very chaotic where I lived. I was right near the city. I went to school at NYU and I was also working as a social worker. So I guess I was getting my licensure, my degree, and working as a social worker too. And so I was going into Manhattan and it was just an incredibly stressful time there. And I saw a sign for like a gathering, like a energy work gathering, are you stressed out? Come here. So I decided to just go and I'm in a lovely group of people and it was all about learning about energy work. It was actually really focused on Reiki, which we can talk about more. I don't really practice Reiki now. I
Okay.
do kind of my own form of energy work. But through
Nice.
that, I was kind of like going down that path, I guess you would say, of realizing that life is not always, you get your little degree and you're all happy and you go to do that job and then you realize, oh, this is incredibly stressful and the world is very
Right.
stressful. You're young and kind of like, and so I realized like this is going to require some I'm going to need to find my way in this world as somebody who's very empathic and sensitive and that kind of thing, which I'm sure many of your listeners are if you're an
Mm-hmm.
animal lover.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that through this group, I was picking up things, but it wasn't about animals really, technically. And then my mother got invited to an animal communication class and she invited me to come along too. And when she told me what it was very like, oh, I already do that. And I kind of just, I feel like I say the same thing every time and it's kind of boring, but whenever anyone talks to me or I talk about it on my show, but that it was kind of like naming breathing. It was like, oh, I've done this, but I just never really called it anything. And
Right.
then also when you don't really have anybody, a mentor or somebody who's doing this or is aware of it or acknowledging it,
Mm-hmm.
you tend to sort of dismiss it or you don't name it. You don't call it what it is.
Right.
And that's kind of what I did. I just sort of like went through my life really understanding what animals were feeling and what they were thinking, but not acknowledging it. And then went to this class and everything was sort of pinging. I was getting a lot of clear information. It was a very intro weekend. It was an intro class. But the teacher said to me, you're really getting a lot of this. And it was actually Amelia Kincaid. She wrote a book a while back with an astronaut trying to explain like the physics of animal communication. She's also
Right.
Betty White's daughter from the Golden Girl or niece
Okay.
niece from the Golden Girls, Betty White, who was a big animal advocate
Yes,
in
she
her
was.
lifetime. Yeah. And so from there, I was like, this is really like my heart just went to this. I really felt like this is what I want to do.
Wow.
And I continued for many years to work also as a social worker while I built my business and also took classes myself and trained and grew my own abilities and became more confident and grew my clientele. And I think that my background as a social worker, I worked in a lot of trauma and abuse and serious mental illness. I worked with some offenders. And I think that that background and training actually helped me a lot with being an animal communicator because there's a counseling type aspect to it. You can't call yourself a counselor. Or, we would not say that we are counselors, but
Mhm.
there are features of it that I think that being a counselor helps with, because when you think about it, while there are people who come to me just for fun, like they just want to kind of like, either they want to learn it, or they may be coming just to discover a little bit deeper what their animal's thinking and feeling. A lot of people are coming with more serious things going on, things that might be affecting their lives
Right.
and the animal's life. So there might be illness, there might be behavioral issues, there might be transitions going on, adjustments, different things like that. And that actually kind of led me into how I went first into massage for animals, and then became certified in that, and then acupressure for animals to become certified in that, because something for me was just like missing. There was a piece missing. I wanted to be able to, oh, I'm identifying, I'm feeling like something's going on in this dog's arm or leg, or, their meridians are off. They need something to be clear. Their chi is imbalanced. And it would be there in me, but I couldn't do anything about it. Like I didn't exactly, the energy work can help, definitely. But I wanted to go deeper. I wanted to put my hands on them and really get in there and learn about their whole physiology. And that helps too as an animal communicator.
Okay.
So yeah, so that's how I ended up doing what I do. And I hung on to also the social work aspect, in the sense that that's part of, I think, what makes me a little bit unique as a teacher, is that I can bring that into the classroom, like helping people to um, navigate different situations that they might not expect or know are going to come up, or, because you're learning how to do this. And
Right.
also, I became a hypnosis certified in hypnosis. I also do brain spotting. So things that my focus with those really for people is to do more helping people with reaching their goals. So that would be somebody who's kind of got a block. I have a couple hypnosis tracks around that kind of thing, like helping people with their hypnosis. I'm sorry, with their animal communication,
Right.
or the work that they're doing with animals. So people can often have doubts and blocks about their abilities.
Okay.
And I do think everybody can do animal communication. If you love animals and you're committed to it, you're probably doing it already, whether you're noticing it, acknowledging it or not. But it just takes a little bit of tweaking to help you sometimes have that confidence. So hypnosis is wonderful for that, as is brain spotting.
Wow. Okay.
And I
So,
also do it for performance kind of stuff too. Doesn't have to be animal communication.
okay. Okay. So there's lots of other aspects to it as well, rather than just the communication. You've rounded out what you offer as well.
Yeah, I think
More
so.
into where you're seeing the gaps then. That's really
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah. Yeah. So how does it work then?
The animal communication. So
Yeah.
you really have to just, what it really all comes down to, and then everything falls into place, okay, is
Okay.
being able to get yourself grounded and centered. And that's where also, like, that's why I've recorded hypnosis tracks for people to use for just when they're not in a class or whatever, and they need a little help getting grounded and centered. Meditation, it doesn't have to be me. It could be listening to a meditation, or if somebody just knows how to meditate.
Right.
All of those things, walking in nature, I actually find for me, kind of shaking off some energy by doing some exercise, things like that, levels me out a little bit. And then I'll do always hypnosis or meditation before I
Okay.
communicate.
Okay.
Um, Not necessarily with my pets, like on a quick thing, like, do you have to go outside or something like that? That's
Right.
different than actually like doing a full communication. But
Yes.
to prepare for a session, you want to be very grounded and centered. Once you do that, you are really focusing on your heart center. And I know that kind of sounds like, people are like, what? What do you mean your heart center? So it is for some people who are experienced with like the chakra language, and that part of the center of your chest, your heart, that energetic center, your solar plexus as well. That's kind of where you start with an animal. You're going into that place of like trust, and I'm coming to you in love, and I want to understand you. And you let them know that you understand them, and you want to understand what they have to say, that you want to convey to them what their pet parent or whoever wants them to understand. And it's just coming from that place, and things start to just come to you. A lot of times it's going to be video or images. So in other words, like little short movies, so to speak, where you sort of see things that the animal's experiencing in the world. For example, if somebody comes to me and they said the dog doesn't want to go outside anymore, they're always going in the house. They used to go outside, and they're showing me, this is a real life example. The dog is showing me that when they go out into the backyard, they're smelling scents of predatory animals to them, animals that feel intimidating to them. And I'm thinking of a small dog that this happened with. And they really started to feel intimidated by being out there by themselves. And so we went through kind of a whole coaching thing and talking about, well, okay, what would help you to feel better? What would help you to feel more confident? And, some of it involved the person going out in the beginning every time and making sure they were with them. It was a fenced in area, but things were still getting over the fence. It wasn't a high fence. And eventually we work through things. Sometimes it takes more than one session, but sometimes it's immediate. And so they would show me like a video of them going outside. I would get the scent too. So you can pick up the smell that they're smelling. You can also pick up taste too. So like if they're having an issue with eating, it could be they don't like the taste of their food, and you're just getting this taste of their food and you're getting like a negative feeling about it.
Disgusting.
Excuse me. Yeah. Yeah. And it's very important, really important to get the feeling with all of this. So whether you're seeing a movie, getting a scent, there can just be a feeling in your body. A lot of this goes back to like medical intuitive work, if people are curious about that. So like I might get like a pain in my wrist,
Right.
or I ask like what's bothering them, and and I get sent Zoom to their stomach, or and there might be different colors that indicate to me that this is something temporary and not a big deal, or maybe something a little bit more serious. I always refer people to their vet first. I always say, I am not a vet. I am not here to, propose that I can heal an animal. I can just give the information I have or do the work on them that I know to do to help them, their own bodies heal themselves, or for the pet parent to then sometimes even take that information to their vet. So sometimes vets might not pick up something that I will pick up.
Sure.
And so you can also get little sentences in your mind as well. Forgot to mention that it's kind of like you're just having your own thought, but you have enough experience to know like this isn't coming from me. This is the animal. And you've already connected it with the animal, so this is more than likely the animal. But I feel like that's a big one people have to kind of like get over. Like they have to get through that doubt and also it's a practice of just distinguishing which is which. And it becomes clearer over time with practice. And really what that means is like people are getting confirmation. So I often have my students, will be practicing with many different animals and my animals, and learning, oh, you know what, I can kind of see now how like that's my thought versus I can tell that didn't come from me. It becomes something that you just know how to pick up. And that's also part of the pre-work, the meditation and that kind of thing. So that when you're very grounded, you can it just puts you in a state where you can just tell, I've come down from my, in my head running around day state.
Yes.
So I'm not questioning, like, is that my anxiety about this or that that's coming up, this job interview or the thing I've got to do today, or this, whatever people are stressed out about. I know I've come down from that and I'm in a grounded space. So when the information comes to me, it's coming from the animal.
Yeah. You just your gut that it's coming from them. It's not from you.
Exactly. Yeah.
Amazing. Wow. It's great that you can offer solutions for people as well. That there's things that you can help their behavior, but also that you can help the diagnosis with the vet as well. If the animal is showing signs of where they're having a problem. because it's hard for a vet sometimes to know exactly what the problem is, even with a million diagnostics. It's so, you know,
Right.
it's so important. With people, we can say, well, I have a pain in my stomach, but the rabbit
Exactly.
can't tell you that. And that's really difficult. So it's amazing that you're plugging the gap there a bit with those kind of things. That's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It helps a lot. I'm sorry, my cat has decided to come visit. She likes to do this when I record my own show too. She's just like, I'm here and I'm gonna tear the place apart. Like that's just I want attention.
So, do you have to be in person then with an animal, or do you do it over Zoom or from a picture, or how does it work when you're working with a client?
You definitely do not need to be in person with them because you're connecting telepathically. It can be they could be anywhere in the world. I have clients all over the world. I've talked to animals in India, just anywhere. Um, I like to have a picture, but it doesn't make a difference technically if I don't have a picture.
Right.
It's just something I started doing a long time ago, and I ask people to make sure that there's nothing in the background. It's very clearly of the animal's eyes only, like or their face, but their eyes are in the picture. Um, it's kind of like an anchor and a link through the eyes. I can't tell you exactly why that is, and some people might find that they don't even like having a picture. And I've had times where just my gut has kind of told me before the session, don't even use a picture for whatever reason. And sometimes these things are like that. They're just gut feelings and you don't know why. It just works out. And you just kind of you learn to listen to your intuition, which is what a lot of this is about as far as animals teach us that it's so important to listen to our intuition in many ways, not just in animal communication.
Yeah. Yes. And do you speak to dead animals as well as alive animals, or is it just alive animals?
Yeah, I do speak to animals in spirit.
Okay.
Um, I and I know we had kind of touched base a little bit ahead of time because we were going to talk a little bit about this because some people might be interested in this topic who come from a place where it may not be as encouraged or they might be questioning it or their family or their church, whatever. And I'm definitely not the person. I'm not trying to take people and point them in a certain path. I think it's everyone's own path that they have to go down to find out what they feel is right, what their belief is. I am a Christian and I talk to animals of spirit, but I did do a time where I took a break from that where I actually grew up Catholic and then I sort of always felt I had that connection. I never really became like I don't maybe as a teenager, I was like a rebellious atheist, maybe, but I never really got away from like a connection with God. And when I came back to Christ when I had already been an animal communicator for quite a while, but I came back to Christ and I actually have a cousin who's a pastor and his wife is a pastor too. And there was a very interesting situation with that where they had a lost I'm getting a little off topic here, but I will come back to the point. They had a lost cat. They were moving and they were going through a really difficult situation. Not They were doing things the right way and they had a really difficult situation. And they had to move very suddenly and the cat got lost and the my aunt said to me, maybe you could help them because they're missing their cat in the middle of all this. And I said, sure, if they want me to. I didn't know how they would really feel about it. And when I touched base with them, it sort of somehow the conversation took a turn and it became more about me and about where I was in my life and my faith, and that they really brought me into becoming a Christian, like a born again Christian. And what happened was the cat was actually found by some workmen. He was we never really had me find the cat. We never got there. Like we ended up, it all became about me and that. But the cat was found by workmen. It was in the ceiling
Oh God.
for several days, actually. Like, so,
Wow.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. but it was very, to me, like God orchestrated the whole thing, like, so my point here is, for one, I think God works through animals. He does. Um, when it comes to animals as spirit, there is stuff that, and for some people, they don't really, this is like, they don't care about this because it's not their world, but there are things that are said in the Bible about mediumship, things like that. I came to a place after taking a break due to that and really looked at that to see what it would mean for me, um, as far as my faith. And I read Greek, and not to say that I know Greek, but I went to sources that could translate Greek. And I just came to a place between that and just my understanding of the Bible and and also hearing from people who are Christians and talking about having visits and things like that after passings, after people have passed.
Yes.
And you do get different opinions too. Like from you will hear more actually in Catholic. I've heard more Catholic priests who I listen to on YouTube and things like that talk about, that they will validate that God will allow visitations from people who passed over to comfort, to help people to see they're okay. They're, with God. Um, so I also don't, to me, a medium is somebody who is embodying, they're sort of taking in the person, or the person, really, people go to a medium for, that it's kind of speaking through them. There's something in the Bible, the Witch of Endor. There's this whole story that gets always referred to when they talk about this. And I don't do that. My thing is that people are very connected with their pets. When a pet crosses over, just like a child or a husband or wife or whatever, a friend that crosses over, that connection doesn't go away.
Right.
It's always there. It's almost like they become part of your makeup. They're in you somehow.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. And many people can talk about experiences where somebody crossed over and something just, they knew that it was that person telling them it's okay, or
Yes.
I'm okay, whatever. And I think it's the same for animals. I've had that experience. And that experience came from prayer too. Like, I would be praying about it. It may not be like what I expected or immediately, but I felt like it was allowed. And so taking all that into consideration and my perception of what the problem is when people go to people or animals who have crossed over for, tell me what to do with my life. And you're putting that in front of what God wants for your life. I think that God wants you to go to God.
Yes.
For guidance. And that's where it gets off track, is when it's like used to take away, and it steers you away from that. I also, there's also like the lumped in with all this is the psychic terminology. And I think psychic to me means, it can mean a few things. Animal communicators fall under it. Even on like my Google business listing, I have to list myself as a psychic because there's nothing else. I was like, the only other thing I could put myself under was like a vet. And I was getting people calling me left and right. Like, do you take new clients? I have a dog who has a broken leg or something, and I'm like, I'm not a vet. I'm like, so I had to
dog boarding, because they're all the time people looking for dog groomers and dog boarding. I'm like, no, just guinea pigs.
Yeah, like, yeah. I've actually said to them, can you come up with another category? Because this isn't working for me. Because to me, psychic, a lot of times people are going to a psychic for, tell me the future. Tell me what's going to happen in the future. Tell me what to. And I feel like that sometimes steers people away again from getting that guidance from God, who only wants the best for you and knows the best for you. And in addition to that, the future changes. I think that if you're told that this is what's going to happen, that's what's going to happen. Perhaps if everything right now in this moment stays the same, and this thing is to happen in the next second, that's what'll happen.
Right.
But that can change with for a variety of reasons and factors and influences. And
Right.
so I don't love that way of doing things personally. Um, some people might, I'm not trying to offend anybody. I don't want to offend, but that is my personal experience and belief. So that's my little, I went off track on that, but I do speak to animals in spirit. I will say I don't make it the primary thing that I push. And I think sometimes I actually find that is maybe a hindrance to my social media standing, because the easiest thing in the world you can do is to put that front and center
Okay.
and pull on people's heartstrings
Yes.
and lure them in with that.
Yeah.
And I really, really try to be conscientious about that, because I don't want to do that. I don't want to get people hooked into like, you got to come to me to talk to your pet, and you got to, in order for people to feel okay.
Yes. Feel like it will be taking advantage of people when they're
Yeah, exactly. I think it's a tool, it's a thing, it's there. It can be used in the right situation, but I think sometimes it gets, I would say, abused. I see it far too much,
yeah.
that it's the like primary thing, like that people are putting out, and they've put out two things on YouTube, and one of them has 9,000 million views, and it's about talking to your pet in spirit, or is your pet, and I abide by a code of ethics that was developed by Penelope Smith, who is an animal communicator who is very well known. She has been around for decades doing this. She was one of the first like people in modern society, let's just say, because I think animal communication has been around for a very long time. And, yeah, especially when we talk here in the United States about like what we would say, like Native Americans talk about having this community with animals and being able to know what animals were
Yeah.
thinking and feeling. Um, and I think in Ireland, you've probably got similar, I'm sure. So, uh, where was I going with that? So Penelope Smith was one of the first to like put it out there in the past several decades, I would say. I had an opportunity actually to mentor with her in person and taught her class for a little while. I was kind of a student of hers, and I now do my own classes. But um, she wrote a code of ethics, and the code of ethics includes things like this. You know, doing enough to help somebody, but not taking advantage of them.
Yes. Yes. Helping them, but not taking advantage.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. Yeah. Because it would be very easy. I can see how it would be very easy for people to take advantage of that. I can see how that's abused and it's not right. So it's amazing to hear somebody ethical about it.
Yeah. We have to be careful. We have to, excuse me, take care of each other. And that's one of the ways that in this field, uh, we do that. It's very important.
Yes. So where do you fall then on the animals' past lives and reincarnation?
So with that, I probably initially believed in it wholeheartedly in when I started. And then again, there are things that in my faith speak that wouldn't be happening. However, I do think that we do have to be open to the possibility, similar to what I was talking about with the thing with like the Leviticus passage in the Bible, where if we don't really dig, and I really would love to, and I've kind of been, it's something I want to do right. So it's taken me a long time to get there, and I am not there yet. I have to find the right person to have this discussion with, somebody who's extremely well versed in the Greek, in the Bible. Really, I had a pastor on, a friend of mine, like she's not a preacher pastor, but she trained and went to, I think, seminary, and we talked about this kind of thing once, but I really want to do it right in depth. But I think there's things about this universe and this world that we don't understand. And I think that a lot of times it would just get lumped into past lives.
Mm.
But I think that there are things, again, that we're all things are starting to come up into the light. People are beginning to really question everything and see things from different angles and look at things from different angles. And, I don't know if there's this sort of some kind of echo or other plane or other. I don't necessarily know that there's another reality going on, a whole nother world where we're somewhere else doing something else. I really don't know that it's that, but I've come to a place because I don't know, and I'm not afraid to admit that I don't know. I am not omniscient. I'm not all knowing. And I think that when I get something where somebody says to me, is this dog a dog I had in the past?
Mm.
I ask the dog, the dog's opinion, and that's what I'm there for.
Right.
So all I have to really do to be true to this is to ask the animal its point perspective on it.
Okay.
And sometimes things will come up that are inexplicable. I don't really understand it, but I always give the person what the animal gives me, no matter what. And oftentimes those are the things that are the most mind blowing, so to speak, for the person, where they'll go, oh my gosh, that you could have known that was something that, happened a long time ago, blah, blah, blah. All these
Right. Yeah.
kind of things where people are, wow, those things are the things that to me don't make sense when they come up. And so I've had situations, a lot of times they're not. I have to be honest with you. A lot of times what they'll say to me is, I'm related. And I feel like it's like a spiritual relationship. Like
Okay.
it's something connected in before they came, before here on earth in their physical body.
Mhm.
That's often more what I get, that there's some connection. It's like a spiritual, like they'll say it's like, that's my sister in some way, or that's, but we don't always as just humans have the language for it on this earth and this, and,
Understood. Yeah. I often hear people saying, "Oh, this rabbit was sent to me by my previous bunny."
right.
I feel
Yeah.
like this bunny was just meant for me, and I feel like it was sent by my soul bunny. People often talk about the concept of a soul bunny, a bunny that they're particularly connected to.
Mhm.
And when they pass and they get another rabbit when they're ready, then quite often they'll say, "Yeah, I'm sure this was sent by my soul bunny. This bunny just couldn't be more connected to me, or they do something in a similar way to the other rabbit." And I just feel like there's a connection there. I think
Yeah.
that's a lovely idea too.
Yeah. And I hear that. I think that that's entirely common, that there's something there. Yeah. With that.
Yeah. Interesting. It's very fascinating, isn't it?
It is. There's a lot to it. There's a lot of directions it can go, and a lot of things that when you start talking to animals, a lot of things you have to start thinking about, and that's the way I teach, is to try to address all those things, to give a space where we can talk safely about, like, before you end up in a situation where you've got a client and they're asking you these questions,
Yes.
we can iron that out and talk about it. And
Yes.
yeah.
There are just things that we just don't know, isn't there? The things that we just
And exactly. We
and we have
just,
to be open to them.
yeah, and just admit we don't know.
Yeah.
We're not God. We don't know everything.
Yeah. And passing on what the animal says to the guardian then is as good as you can get, isn't it? Because they're telling you everything they know, which is more than we know probably. And they can make what
Exactly.
they will then. They can interpret that whatever way they'd like. And I'm sure it brings comfort as well, which is amazing.
Yes. Yep. And letting them interpret it the way that they will is usually, I try to do as little interpretation as possible, other than to, if information comes to me and it's kind of, like sometimes information will come really quickly in, and it's, I'm getting it. I'm getting the feeling, I'm getting with the messages, but I have to sort of put it in English,
Right.
is the only way I can put it to the person. So that it does make sense, and then let them go with that. But it really is letting them interpret it in a way that makes sense, because usually that's the fullest picture is,
Yes.
oh, I'm making that connection. That's the thing that, they loved that food that I used to give them and I stopped giving it. They're talking about that when you describe this
Okay.
particular colored food that tastes a certain way, or, they're talking about a fish treat that they, you're telling me about that. Oh yeah, I used to give them that. And then I stopped because of XYZ, it's
Right.
too
Couldn't get it
fattening
anymore or
or
whatever.
couldn't get it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Got recalled.
So what are some of the most common things that you would hear from animals that they would talk about?
A lot of animals just are so thrilled to have an opportunity to be heard. They're so excited. They kind of come in like, especially ones that I haven't talked to before. It's like the first time they've had an animal communicator talk to
Yeah.
their pet. They often come in like guns ablazing, like, and they're often wanting the first thing that happens a lot of times in sessions, and it helps the person and me know we've got your pet here, is they'll bring something up about themselves, their personality, something they love that makes sense to the person.
Right.
And I wouldn't have known. I try to get very little information prior to the session. Um, that information comes in, and then I'm sorry, wait. This is a senior moment. What was your initial question? I was going.
What are the most common things they want to talk about?
So a lot of times, then they'll start to go on about different things that they like. A lot of times they're such pure loving souls that sometimes they'll start with something negative, if you want to call it negative, but something that they dislike. But a lot of times it's like, I like this and I like that and I like this. And then you have to kind of steer it and say, okay, so mom wants to know what you dislike or something you would like changed. Is there anything like that?
Right.
And then they will talk about those things. And also how much they do. A lot of times people will say to me, do they know how much I love them? And like 100% of the time they do. There's no question. That's what they're so attuned to is the love. That's what their, thing is love, animals. So they oftentimes commonly will just confirm that. But they'll talk about their siblings too, like animals in the home, and their relationships with them, favorite things they enjoy. And then, sometimes it's just like a prompting, like the person came to me because they're wondering if the animal's experiencing some pain, or if the supplement they're giving them is feeling good, if it feels like a, good match for them.
Yeah.
Or I'll get information about things that might help that they're not getting.
And I'm sure of course, they pick up on what's going on in the home as well. And if there's conflict in the house or changes or anything like that, can really upset them, can't it? So I know particularly for rabbits, they're very, very sensitive, but for all animals, they pick up on all that as well. So I'm sure people come to you asking about that as well, whether it's affecting the animal.
Sure. Yeah, that was actually the next thing you picked up on. What my next thought was, that I was going to say that, that a lot of times it's having to do with the family.
Yeah.
So I actually just did an episode about this with a particular dog who was experiencing a few different issues, and it related to some things that have been going on in the home. So a lot of times they'll be picking up on energy in the home or things if it's off, and they'll want to mention that. And they'll want to mention if something is, in their opinion, causing a problem for their loved ones. So an animal will want to point out to their mom or dad who's dating someone new that they like this person, or they don't think this person's good for them for some reason.
Okay.
But it's always done from a very loving place.
Right.
It's, very much like they're sensing that there's a shift in the person, and it's concerning them, and a shift in their energy, that kind of thing.
Much more in tune than we are sometimes, aren't they?
Yes.
Our gut, the animals do.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they'll mirror even what sometimes illnesses that people have. It will sometimes mirror those.
Right.
And it's chicken or the egg, sometimes we're mirroring something they had first or vice versa.
Yes.
And so that's where sometimes I feel like that's another piece of the God piece. I feel like God will work through animals to help us recognize something that's going on that could potentially be a problem, and they're trying to get us to pay attention to something that's going on physically that you recognize at first in your pet. Sometimes people are more likely to be attuned to something and push away something that might be going on with them, but they're willing to see it in the animal and want to get help for the animal, and then they kind of have to like recognize it in themselves.
Especially them, because we really love our fur babies and we really want to make sure they're okay, and we often put them before ourselves, don't we? So
Exactly.
yeah, I can absolutely see. And I do believe that God sent the animals to us for us to love and for our companionship, and that they create this whole new dimension to our lives that we don't have if we don't have pets.
Right.
So good for our mental health, and they just bring something to our lives just to really enrich them,
Exactly. Yep. And he's called us to be good stewards of the animals. So we know he loves them. We know that he holds them in a special place.
Yes, totally agree with that. Yeah. Amazing. So, tell me, what is the most interesting animal that or the most interesting case that you've had? That's putting you on.
Well, they're all so interesting. I don't know if there's any most, but there's so many that, I mean, I guess ones that stand out as, I guess just, for whatever reason, they pop into my head. I'm thinking about one that, I do some missing pet work still. I'll put this out here because whenever I talk about missing pets, I get flooded, and I I don't do as much as I used to. And there's a reason for that. It's because they're very, they pull at you. They can be a real, you want to do a good job. You want the animal return. And if you are like me, you want to do 100%, you have to watch your energy and your output. Yeah, it is heartbreaking. So, but there was a family that just always stands out to me because they've kind of like, they've always stuck with me through the years, because at this point in time, I was doing more in-person things. Now I'm almost 100% of what I do is at a distance, but I did go to their home, and their cat had been missing, and for a few days, I think it was, I don't know exactly how long. It's been a few years, but I went to their home. They took me into their home, and then I said, let's go outside. And I went out to the one part of their house, and I said, let's go to this side of the house. And I felt like just a magnetic compass sort of like just steering me. And we got to a certain point, and I just went over there, and I pointed straight ahead. And the girl goes over, and there's some kind of box, I don't know what it was, but it was in the yard. I forget what it was for. And she looked behind it, and she just went, oh my God, and picked up the kitty, and she started running towards me, holding it and crying. And just to feel that you played a part in that, that's like that is a memory for me that, and they said they'd been, of course, all over their yard. I mean, they'd been all over the neighborhood looking for this cat, including their yard. But for whatever reason, that's where it was at that moment, at that time, which is another aspect of missing pets that's difficult. You can tell somebody where a pet is at that moment, at that time, and then they can move. Yes. And it's very, very stressful, very hard. But that stands out to me, and they've kind of become a family that is, they're so wonderful. Like, they always mention me on Facebook and things like that because of that reunited. But, yeah.
Wow. And is it just dogs and cats that you do, or do you do other animals?
Oh, yeah. No, you can talk to any animal. I talk to animals in the wild. There's some deer here in the back that come through. I'll talk to them, especially when I'm walking my 2 dogs. And I'm like, we're not going to bother you. If you don't bother, can you you go ahead. So you can, use it for things like that. But absolutely, I talk to bunny rabbits and snakes and guinea pigs and anything, you name it. Yeah, absolutely. Horses are wonderful to talk to. There's some funny, a lot of them. Pigs. anything, any animal. That's what's so wonderful about it.
Have you got any stories of rabbits that you can think of?
Um, I don't get as many rabbit people, and I'm not sure why that is. Um, because there's no difference. I just don't know if maybe rabbit people are, I don't know, as into this or exposed to it as much. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe you could speak to that, like why that might be. I don't know. But I have definitely had rabbit clients. And I remember this client who had a couple of rabbits, and one of the rabbits was having some issues, had some skin issues, something like that. And we're trying to basically go through things that may or may not be helping the rabbit, that maybe,
Okay.
and I remember that the rabbit was behaving in a different way, like that was affecting their relationship, what was going
Right.
on, like he was kind of isolating.
Mhm.
Um, so it turned out to be helpful to have the conversation because the something, and I wish I could remember what it was, but something that she was giving the rabbit was impacting their connection. Like
Right.
it was throwing them off. I
Mhm.
feel like it was something topical from my memory. I don't know what, and maybe it was the something about the smell of it from my memory, but it was something
Right.
that once that was taken away and replaced, with something that was better suited, helped in their relationship, which is really what's,
Amazing.
so devastating if an animal's like not has pulled away or is not, connecting with the person. That's really
Yeah.
anxiety provoking and upsetting for people. So
Sure. And amazing that you can help remove that block then for them so they can get their relationship back on track. And
exactly.
our
Yeah.
hearts as bunny guardians to think that our bunnies
Sure.
are not communicating with us and that we've upset them in some way. We
Yeah.
how about if let that happen? Yeah.
I know, right? It's exactly. And that's why I really encourage people to connect in with their own ability to communicate with animals, because you can't always have an animal communicator. It could be midnight, you could be something could be going on. And that's why, my goal is really and has become through the years to help people more, to educate them about it and to help people bring it out in themselves so that they have that ability. And not to say that sometimes when things are very like, when things get very serious with pets, even as animal communicators, sometimes we need a different person to connect in with them,
Right.
you
That
know?
is by the situation.
Yeah. Just like a doctor shouldn't work on their own family member kind of deal. You got there's
Mhm.
something that can get affected in you can get blocks and things like that. You got too much emotion going on most of the time when something's really serious.
For sure, yeah. But that's something I'm really interested in because I do a lot of rabbit bonding. So rabbits are better living
Mm.
in pairs, but initially when you put them together, they quite often fight and or they have a disagreement about who's the boss. The hierarchy is so important to them. And when you're bonding rabbits, what I find is a lot of people are rescuing rabbits. There's so many rabbits being dumped at the moment. And a lot of
Mhm.
people are rescuing rabbits as a friend for their initial rabbit, even if their initial rabbit wasn't rescued. And the
Okay.
rabbits bring their trauma and their background into the bonding pen with them. And I'm wondering,
Yeah.
can people tell me about your background? Tell me where they bonded before? Do you know why, what happened before they were dumped? What kind of situation they were rescued from? Because I think they have a lot of emotions in their little bodies, and it's just I think there's a lot of psychology in the whole thing and how they connect with each other and how they connect with us. And watching their body language is so important with the bonding. So it's really something I'm quite in tune with, I think, because I do so much of the bonding. And
Right.
I love to see people connecting with their own pets as well in the same way, their own fur babies in the same way, because I think it's really important. I think there's not enough said about that online, especially with bonding.
Right. Yeah. That element.
And then do this and then do this. But you have to look after the person who's bonding as well, because if for them it's an emotional experience, it's a stressful experience, and they don't want their fur babies to hurt each other. But also the rabbits quite often need extra kind of support around that as well. They need their setup change sometimes for the bonding, or they need their timing of the bonding sessions to be changed because it doesn't suit them to do it that time of the day, or the
Mhm.
sessions are too long and they're not coping with it. There's a lot of all that goes into it. So I think
Yeah.
parents, we definitely can't do enough of trying to get inside our bunnies' heads.
Right, exactly. Yeah, this is definitely a great tool to be able to tweak things that otherwise you're kind of, like, I don't know, throwing something at the wall, trying to figure out, well, what's the best time? I try this, I try that, I try that. And sometimes you can cut to the chase um with animal communication. And by the way, I forgot to mention this. I do have a special discount for your people.
Oh, thank
Yeah, it's gonna be they can go to my website, intuitivetouchanimalcare.com.
Okay.
I send everybody there first. There is a link then that goes to my school, which
Right.
is housed on like a teaching website for
Okay.
it's no one wants to hear all that technical stuff. But basically there is a little purple box that says like go to Animal Intuitive Academy. So if they go there and the code is gonna be Bunny Coach 10
Okay.
and they'll get 10% off any of my digital products. So I have in-depth class on there in animal communication, acupressure, and massage. And you can use the acupressure points with the bunny rabbits too.
Right.
Um,
Okay. Yes.
and then I have a very beginner class. It's just like a little over an hour. And then I have a hypnosis track on there as well that people might
Okay.
be interested in to help them with the confidence stuff.
Okay.
So those are my digital products that are on there, and they can use that to get 10% off. We can tell them when it'll run out if people want to use that.
Thank you so much. That's amazing because I'm sure a lot of my listeners will be really interested in that. So for them, for anybody who wants to start with animal communication, whether it's with their own animals or to do it professionally, this is a really good place to start with one of your classes there to just kind of help them get in the headspace of it and in tune with what their own fur
Yeah,
babies are saying. So it's a great place to start, isn't it?
absolutely. I mean, I really made the classes for those two different people. Some people don't want to dive completely into a full blown class, but I do also have payment options for that, like pay over time. But I also include though that hypnosis for confidence with the in-depth class, not the beginner class. But those are just different options people have. They can also get some of this through my uh, channel on YouTube, which is also on like things like I have the recording on Spotify and Apple too, all the different podcasts, but the Animal Intuitive channel. I have a playlist for animal communication and I often talk about it. Even when I'm doing shows on acupressure, massage, or anything, I will include like a little thing with animal communication lesson in there. So that's another free resource.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I will put all those notes into the show notes at the bottom of the podcast for people so that they can hook up with you and check out what you're offering because that's amazing.
Yeah, I'd love to have them. Love to have them join my community, and we all need each other. We can all help each other. Yeah,
Absolutely. We can never know enough about our fur babies, can we? So the more we can learn, the better, and the more we can bond with them because we understand them better. So I think that's fantastic. So thank you so much.
yeah, and definitely, and it's if it works for you, you should come on my show too. We'll have you on as a guest if you're interested.
I'd love that.
Yeah. Be great to hear some bunny stuff. We don't talk a ton about bunnies, so it would be great to hear your expertise on
It's a date. We will
yeah.
definitely do.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
we'll
Thank you.
arrange that afterward.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much, Anne. Really, really eye-opening. Really appreciate it. I think my listeners are going to be really fascinated and interested to learn what you've had to say to us because it's just a whole different world to what's normally talked about. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. It's been wonderful.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.